Hey y'all, welcome to the Clock Tower. I'm Colton here with Brandon. We've got a couple of new English releases and a big Japanese release to talk about today, as well as the upcoming thank you event. Brandon and I will be going to our locals on Saturday. So actually some things to talk about today. Let's get started by talking about the two new English releases that we have announced. First of all, Date Alive. I didn't do any research on this. So Brandon, you looked at every card. What's important?
I did look at every card. I mean, the set has a lot of things you would expect. Currently, Date Alive has two main builds. There's the Choice Standby build and the 8 Standby build. Both of those really rely on the same main finisher at level 3. We have what's currently translated Worst Spirit Kurumi. And really, she's a really good comparison to Evil Eye from Overlord. They have a lot of similar effects, and Overlord's been out for a while in JP, coming out in English soon. One of the biggest things, on-play heals. It combos with the Standby Climax, and you can do a variety of effects to hurt your opponent in the best way possible, given whatever state they're in. So it's a really good utility level 3 finisher that can take advantage of what's going on. You can shuffle cards back into their deck. You can burn damage, and you can stock swap. All with the same card, but you have to choose one. So it's really interesting, and it's a good way to be able to finish out your opponent. You can take advantage of their good compression and make it work for you. Both of those builds rely on that card. When we get down to level 1, there's a bit more options. For the choice trigger, we have Kotori, Younger Sister. So that card allows you to be able to, on attack, reveal the top card of library, and if it's a character or an event, you can put it into hand twice. So on attack, you're putting 2 cards into hand, potentially, and then trigger it. To potential to tri-field this and then get potentially 6 cards into hand, you're replenishing your hand by far. It really reminds me of the Shizu combo from Slime that just came out. You're still kind of going through those same roughly 9 cards as you go through the deck. So you're kind of essentially milling out, but instead of into waiting room, you're milling into hand. So you don't have as much choice as to what comes into hand, but with adding a lot of cards into hand, you're looking at the potential of using those cards as opposed to watching them disappear.
Are there a lot of hand fix options? Hand sculpting kind of things?
Oh, yeah.
In this set?
Oh, yeah. It has a lot of the tools that you would want in a set. It has a very diverse level 0 game, so you have options to be able to fix the hand that you have, get the cards you want if you don't have them in hand already. The other pair of cards that follow along with the standby trigger at level 1, Toka, Cruel Reality, the level 1 combo that allows you to get the follow-up card Toka Event Disaster and put it on that spot. So it's kind of like standbying it in its own target on a standby trigger. And then the card that stands by in, the Advent of Disaster, allows you to then stand another card. So you can not only use that to bring in a card for itself, but then you can use the card that it brings in to then stand the card you brought in with standby.
Do you think that there's enough here so that we might finally get the standby list that could actually crack the meta? Like, we've been so close a couple of times. Fujimi Bunko is good, but broken into the top tier of the meta. Do you think that this could be a standby list that could actually compete at that level? It looks like it has some really nice standby synergy, which is something that the other sets had bits and pieces of, but this looks like the level 1 combos with it and puts the level 2 on, which helps you drag on the level 3s. Like, it feels like it has really nice synergy to make it all work together.
I think that it definitely has potential. I think one of the benefits that this has that a lot of the other ones did not is that it has a really strong level 3 attached with the standby combo. So like, it not only does it have level 3s that are good to bring in with standby, but it has that specific one that is a really good finisher, if that makes sense. Like the others, like for example, Fantasia Bunko, you bring in the level 3s with standby, and bringing them in allows you to have high power, and it's going to try to outwall you, and then with the next soul event, try to outlast you. This one is more offensive than defensive to that regard. Like, it's bringing them out early, but then it's also using them for strong attackers. For sure, this definitely is going to be a set to be reckoned with. Whether it becomes known for the 8 standby or whether it becomes known for the choice standby in English, I think still is up in the air.
I think in any case, though, we're looking at the red level 3 finisher. Worst Spirit Karumi, as you mentioned.
Yeah, I think that's definitely going to be the finisher of choice.
Honestly, that really does seem to be the shtick of this set, at least like a lot of its key cards. You have options. Like there's the choice trigger. There's this level 3 that lets you make decisions based on what the situation calls for. But then there's also that level 1 event.
My little shootout.
That But seriously, cost 0 events that plus at level 1 are common. Fate has a couple of them. Goblin Slayer obviously has the torch. But I like this because it has multiple options, and the only extra cost is tapping 1. So you'll rest a character in your back row to either plus a character off the top 4 to choose a level 3 out of your waiting room, or, and this is probably the most interesting effect on the card, you can swap one of your opponent's characters for something that's a level lower in their waiting room.
Like an anti-standby.
It is. But not only that, it's something that literally can just clear away anything. Literally anything. Unless it has hexproof, any card is vulnerable to this, which is huge. But can you imagine playing this against Fujimi Bunko, for example, and just, you get your early play down, no, it's gone.
It effectively counters a lot of standby options, like Priestess, for example.
Goblin Slayer just got worse.
Rider from Fate.
Ooh, that's true. Because that doesn't have hexproof, does it?
Nope.
Wow. No, that's true. No, so, both of those are prime targets for this.
Yeah, it's like you have a lot going for you with this event, but I think that what makes this good is that, especially the level 1 choice, you can add this to hand off of the combo because you can add events into hand.
Yeah.
So it's not a negative to the deck in that regard.
Yeah, and I think that's something that Bushy's really been struggling to do, is find a way to make events more playable, because they just haven't been worth it just because there's so little access. So what they've been doing, and I think it really, I think it started at a high level with Goblin Slayer, how they started to do a lot more things with the Torch event, and then in the Mask event in Slime, and now this. I think they're really trying to make events usable by increasing your access to them in your deck. Because like in the old Fate sets, like those 1-0 events are excellent. They're you play it, you look at the top 4, and you plus a character, essentially. And they're good, but they're hard to get to. So you either play all 4 and just hope that you get into it, or you don't, because you don't want that kind of inconsistency. So and what they had been doing, it seemed like for a long time, was they were just making events so much better. And it seemed like what they were doing for a long time is they were making these events that were very good to try to get people to play them, almost, because people weren't playing them and people still weren't playing them. So I like things like this, where they've maybe scaled back the power level of the event a little bit, or, at the very least, it's not an overpowered kind of thing, but you have actual access to the card. You can go get it by doing something that your deck already does, just by broadening the kinds of targets you can get off of a Climax combo, for example, like they do here. I like this. I like the way that this is constructed. I like the options available. I think it's reasonably costed. When we were talking about this earlier, I think this is something that Bushiroad's actually really good at doing, is using like these mechanics that are very familiar and making them interact in ways that are interesting and powerful without making them too powerful. Because like this set, I think, is going to compete, but I don't think it's going to break the meta. But I can see this being a very good set.
It's definitely going to be interesting, especially with Free Fresh counter that it has in its set as well. Like, it has a lot of tools that a lot of different sets have in them, but it's all together in this one set.
Mm-hmm. And I think that the choice option is going to be very interesting. I think that allows players to do more different things without needing to tech in a lot of different pieces. Instead of having, a couple of cards each that do this one thing, now you have one card that maybe does all of them but doesn't quite do them as powerfully, or there's a little additional cost in there. I like it. I like the balance of the set. I think it's going to be good. I think it's definitely playable. That finisher looks amazing. I really, really like this finisher a lot. Do you know, so how does it play with the current Data Live English stuff out of Fujimi Bunko? Looks like some of them share the same, that elemental trait in JP. It's translated as Celestial Spirit into English, but it looks like they a lot of the cards share that same trait.
There's a couple of interesting cards that are in there, but I don't think that with the two main deck builds being the choice and standby, most of these cards don't fully interact with those. Like the cards that were released into Fujimi Bunko are all blue. Choice and standby are yellow and red respectively. So like there's a lot of interesting effects that can happen with some of those cards. There's the PR card that the restander, like that that definitely could.
People have been taking that in.
I think that card is what's going to be relevant to the discussion as like the final set builds and whatnot. I think we really hit on the big parts of Data Live. Like there are a bunch of cards in the set that make it worth running, but I think that these ones are the highlights of the set. So with that, let's move on to the other set that has been announced for English as well. The Frozen Bonds for ReZero.
Mm-hmm.
Amelia and Puck are like the main focus of this set. And the fact that it's in the color green is actually really interesting to see as well. Because this is the first edition of green into ReZero, which is really funny to think of because this is like the fourth set for ReZero and the first green.
We're seeing less and less 4-color sets just in general.
Yeah.
Which I think ultimately is a good thing. 4-color decks just aren't really practical, so having 3-color sets lets you play all the best stuff from all the colors in a given set, and I like that. It lets you tech stuff in a lot more easily from other colors.
Still no standby with ReZero after 4 sets.
Thank God.
Having Reinhardt at level 2 just seems unbearable.
That's literally the reason why they're never going to. Well, can you imagine getting no? I don't want to think about it. No, ReZero does not need standby. So let's talk about the core of this. Okay, so this set seems to be designed around either helping out the current blue Amelia deck or creating its own green Amelia deck, because there are still some really nice Amelia pieces, but there's a level 3 combo here and a level 1 combo here that are both interesting.
There are. To be fair, every set should be focused on getting its own set out that's playable by itself. But I think that definitely it plays into the blue for sure from previous sets better than the current, say, meta sets of the deck. Meta yellow.
Yeah. I think there's enough here, though. I think there's enough here, and we'll talk about it, but I think there's enough here to make a competitive Amelia deck.
Well, Amelia technically is also competitive.
Right. Well, let's get into specifics and talk about what makes this set work or not work. Let's start with the level 1 combo. I like this level 1 combo a lot, because it's Omniverse, pitch a green card, and you can search your library for 2 characters and put them into your hand. Not only does this it fixes basically everything, right? This is if you're running a very green-centric deck. You're probably not running any colors that aren't green, except maybe a couple of tech pieces. This lets you fix your entire hand and also compress your first deck really, really effectively. If you get this combo off, and it's small, it's a small on reverse, so you're looking at trying to reverse with 6,000, maybe 6.5 or 7.5. You get a little bit of help from the back row, but point is you're trying to get to level 1 first, and then you basically lock yourself out of getting to level 2, because if you're even in somewhat normal compression at that point, you just pulled 6 cards out of your deck and put them into your hand. So you suddenly have everything that you need for the end game, and you're not going to get a bunch of damage stuck on you right away. This gives you second deck compression in your first deck.
Yeah, no, it's definitely an interesting combo for sure.
This can take you from 4 out of 25 down to 4 out of 19. Or if you were in a better state, 4 out of 20 down to 4 out of 14, or something like that. That's really, really good for the first deck.
No, I agree with the fact that it's also small, that you need to hit level 1 first.
Yeah, like I don't know if this is even necessarily better than the level 1 combo that already exists for Amelia, but this is definitely good. And I think that if you can get the proper power support pieces going in the back row to help this, and it doesn't look like there's a green Ricky in this set, which is a bummer. Like there are already Rickies in the, but you could Ricky yourself into this, make it happen at level 1. It's interesting. It's got the same problems as the Astolfo combo in Apocrypha. It's got a really good effect, but it's really small, and the challenge of playing a really small level 1 combo is sometimes not worth it. So as much as I love this effect, because it's on reverse, that's going to make this a little tougher than I think you'd like. So I do like it. I'm enthusiastic about it, but I think the fact that it's so small and requires a reverse is going to be a problem. But I will say, I think the level 3 is really, really interesting. I like the level 3 a lot.
What do you like about it?
Well, I mean, it essentially has 4 abilities, right? All of which are eminently useful. It's basically 11,000 at all times, 12 with the combo. It heals on play, and it has 2 free extra damage abilities with the combo. On reverse clock kick, and when it direct attacks, pitch 1 to deal 2. So your opponent can't dodge the clock kick. You're going to get dealt damage one way or the other. And both clock kick and burn 2 get around most anti-burn effects. So on reverse at level 3 can be easier to sort out, especially considering that, one of this set's big cards is an Amelia level 3 assist. So if you get all the support that you need in the back row, it's going to be a hard reverse to deny. I like this. I think it plays nicely with the other things in the set. I think it has nice flexibility at the top, so that if you are in a situation where you're looking at an empty board, you can still do a lot of extra burn damage. You get the clocks off. Just there's a lot to like here, I think. It's not super powerful, I don't think, but it's definitely very good and certainly useful. When you put all of these on the same card, it makes a card that is rather good.
I definitely think it's going to be interesting to see this set in action, to be able to put this set into a environment that has so much resources at its disposal. There is definitely a lot that can supplement what's going on in this deck. And I mean, to be fair, the decks supplement what's going on in the other sets as well. So like having this with Amelia and Puck, there's a lot of Amelia support as well from the previous sets that could even make this even more explosive.
Yeah, I think it mostly plays nice with the old Amelia stuff, which is good. Real quick, before we move on from ReZero, I think there are a couple of other pretty good cards I want to briefly mention. One is, and they're both the Rem and Ramen Hakama. The Rem is a level 0 Brainstormer that lets you top check on play, so you have a little more knowledge of what you're about to brainstorm into. Pay 1, rest 1, search Brainstorm. So pretty decent card there. And then the Ramen Hakama is a Climax combo that lets you... it works similarly to the Union from Konosuba. Put the top card in your library in your stock, choose a Rom pink-haired maid in your waiting room, return it to your hand. So if you're running the Rom deck, if that's the deck that you're running, this card is probably a nice level 1 combo for that. They're not fantastic, but they're interesting. So,
and that's like the set.
More or less.
So as we move on, we're going to talk about the thank you event that's coming up for us. A lot of thank you events have already happened across the different areas. Bushiroad has put out the prize cards, the participation cards, and depending on the location, the card exchange for the Priestess promo card from back in March.
Yep, you should be able to trade that back in and get your Holy Dance Priestess if you won or placed back in the before time. But everyone's supposed to get a copy of Gallant Knight Alice from Alicization, and it looks like the top 2 will get a 2-1 backup from JoJo's, which on TCG Player is going for almost $200 right now. I feel like that's not right somehow.
No. 200?
Yeah, like all of there are 3 listings, all of which are like $180 something, $190 something. It's ridiculous. So I don't think that doesn't sound right to me, but on JK it's listed for 20, which makes a lot more sense, but they're also all out, so who knows? Markets are weird.
I mean, it's a good possibility that it could get up high, but I don't think it would be that high. That's expensive.
I don't think so. I feel like there are going to be a lot of these running around, especially because it's a top 2 at every thank you event. So like it's not like they're going to be.
Well, that's just it, though. The thank you events that happen, how many of them are going to happen? That's the issue.
Yeah, that's fair. Maybe they won't be as available. The card itself is actually pretty all right because it's a regular 2-1 backup, so 2,500 power, but it also has a top check attached to it, a top check hand filter.
Mm-hmm.
So it's actually rather usable. So I don't know. Maybe there will be demand for it just because like all the JoJo decks are going to have to run it. In any case, that's a thing that's happening. So
with that information in mind, the potential prizes, the participation, at our store specifically, like what kind of decks do you expect to face at the local scene?
See, I think it's going to be an interesting one because this will be the first time that we've gotten together to play in any group larger than like 3 people in 5 months. So that means everyone has had all quarantine to buy and build. So we could realistically be going in facing just about anything.
It's true.
Honestly. And I also think that because I don't think this is going to be as competitive an event as, say, maybe the Shop League might be. And maybe not. Maybe people really want that JoJo's promo. But I don't think this is going to be a meta event per se. So, like, we'll see. There will always be Konosubas and Attack on Titans. You'll see those everywhere. And, there's a ton of Love Live here in the States. So, like, you're going to see that. Lots of people have things like Sword Art. So, like, the stuff that people have, they'll play. But I also think that people are going to want to play the stuff that they bought during quarantine.
That makes sense.
So, like, I know I will. So, if someone watched the invitationals and decided that they wanted to play Card Captor or Fate, this might be their first event playing those, especially because it is such a low stakes event. There's nothing really on the line here except for some promos. So I don't anticipate that people are going to be perceiving this event as super competitive. So I think people will be more likely to bring the stuff that they like, but maybe isn't their best stuff. Maybe some people want to bring whatever they're comfortable with just to get back into the flow of playing, or it'll be interesting. I don't think it's going to be easy to predict, but I think we'll see a lot of new stuff. I think the stuff that's been released in the last 6 months that people have liked, I think we're going to see some of that just because it's new and people haven't had a chance to play it in a competitive environment yet. So I think we'll see Slime. I think there will be quite a bit of Slime because that's the new big hot set that a lot of people like. Some combination of new stuff people want to try out and casual stuff that people like. Who knows what we're gonna every local meta is different, but I don't even know if local meta is going to be a predictor of what we're going to see at a tournament like this.
Being out nearly 6 months now, like realistically, by the time we go in there, we'll be a week off of 6 months. You're looking at 6 months worth of decks that have come out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I fully suspect we'll see a lot of. I think we'll see a lot of decks that we already saw, actually, because I'm on the other side of that train as well. Because, yes, everybody's been closed off for 6 months, which means that there are other people that have been on the other side of that coin and said, well, if I'm not actually playing anywhere, I have no reason to spend the money on the cards.
That's also fair.
So, like, there's a good possibility we'll see some of the same decks we saw 6 months ago.
Are you saying that not everyone spent the last 5 months doing nothing but playing cards and buying cards online?
I'm saying that there's probably a few that did not go out and immediately purchase every Haruhi card known to man.
Why are you attacking me, Brandon? In public, on the show. Why are you coming after me like that? There's a good deck in there somewhere. I'm
just saying that not everyone did that. To be fair, not everyone also sat around doing nothing. Like people have been invested in the community. Like we've seen that. We saw that in the Invitational.
I feel like this is, coming from someone who is still relatively new to like the Weiss community at large. I feel like the Weiss player base is coming out of, I put coming out of in scare quotes because, we're only kind of sort of out of quarantine and we very well could be going right back into it. Like schools are opening like this week. So, we'll see how long this all lasts. But I think in spite of that, I think that the Weiss community at large is pretty strong. coming out of this, honestly. I think that the Invitationals were a really good event for that. I think people are still remaining really involved, and I think we even might have picked up some new players during all of this. Like, I don't know what we're looking at on like a broad scale, but I feel like the interaction in the community has still been really strong these last few months. So I think that is reason for optimism. I think participation is going to be high at these tournaments. I think people are, itching to get back out and play. So I think that's going to be good. I think that the fact that there has been Weiss stuff to talk about over the summer with new releases and the tournament, all the conversation that's been going on around those things, I think that there'll be some energy there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I know I'm looking forward to it. I know you're looking forward to it.
But yeah, we'll talk about that on the next Clock Talk. In the meantime, we'll have some open gameplay on Thursday. Realistically, probably going to play the stuff that we're going to play at the thank you event. And then next week, Brandon, you have a deck tech. What are you profiling? Or do you not know / have you not announced yet?
I have not announced it yet. So I'm going to reveal that next time.
So yeah, please like, share, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for joining us today. And until next time, have a good one.
We'll see you then.